Hello and welcome. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about sort of what made me come back to YouTube, what sort of inspired me. Because as you may notice, if you are new around here, there's sort of like a 4-year gap or whatever, maybe 3 years, I don't know. The biggest influence for me personally was taking an acting course. And then I had an assignment where I got to select an actor and talk about them. And what's funny is that that acting course would be considered entirely elective by any sort of definition because I had already taken a public speaking course. So for my major, it was already completed. But the influence of learning acting and the benefits that sort of came with it were incredible. And it honestly all started because I failed a Calculus 2 class. So the way things work out sometimes are just sort of interesting because sometimes we make mistakes, but I think the thing that defines a lot of us is how we respond to those mistakes and how we move past them. And after not making a passing grade in my calculus class, I had no longer been eligible to take an in-person class for the next semester on mathematics. And without an in-person course, my monthly stipend for housing is decreased substantially, so I had to find an in-person course. And I thought it would be funny to consider myself a paid actor by going to school for an acting class and then sort of making up the difference in stipend as a result. And it turned out pretty well. I mean, I wound up there were 3 rules we had, and I believe they're sort of like guidelines for an ensemble, and it was to trust yourself, make your partner look and feel smart, and then to yes and. And between those 3 tactics, we learned several sort of underlying messages and how to interact with one another, what it means to be absorbed in a moment. And one of the other big things I learned was about second circle energy, which interestingly enough is sort of like an application in a group setting of mindfulness and being present. And between all these things that I had no idea about because I'm supposed to be in school for computer science, I found myself dreaming of one day performing in front of an audience again because many moons ago, back in high school, I had done acting and I did, gross, but some stand-up. I hope that none of that exists anymore. But there's always been this drive for me to perform and sort of like characterize moments. And I didn't realize that in those moments, what I was doing is acting because I wasn't very conscious of what I was doing, especially since much of the time I was in the closet and sort of removed from who I am, as I am now. And from there, I think in that class, something about being able to step into an environment and feel comfortable made me want to reopen myself up to that idea that I could perhaps one day succeed. Because failure isn't very scary. People fail every day. It happens. And oftentimes we can just forget about our failures and move on. But the thing about learning is that sometimes forgetting our failures is not as beneficial as we would hope. It might assist us in an emotional sense, or it might dull the pain of sort of being made aware of our failures. But when we sort of accept accountability for our failings and then grow from it, I think the benefits of making a wrong decision oftentimes are far greater than even making the right decision. And at the same time, while a lot of people will claim to fear failure, I think what they're really fearing is a sense of success, because a lot of us sort of look for complacency, or for me at least, I would say, I look to be comfortable. I want everything to kind of be okay and where I can feel secure in my possessions. You'd never guess what the government makes me feel now. You'll never guess what the Navy made me feel. But that standing aside in acting class for that sort of hour-long, or maybe it was a 2-hour block, I would get to go into this room with a group of people who I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but you get acquainted with each other when you're playing in this imaginary space as an ensemble. And it afforded me opportunities to connect with people in ways that I hadn't before, because I didn't even consider the idea of being present for those around me, rather than being caught up in what I'm trying to solve in my own head. But there are times for introversion and times for extroversion, and I think acting helped me learn where to separate the two. Because of that, I then grew to be comfortable enough to want to sort of post on this channel and revitalize this caricature that I had made years ago. And I think it's honestly gone pretty well. From there though, because that was just my acting 1 class, I began posting here on YouTube, and then I have such a good time making these videos for you. I'm gonna be honest. I get nervous and I have some, stage fright, as it were. But thankfully, you all are so kind, especially when you get to this point in the video. I mean, if you're still here, fucking love you, buds. Yeah, I mean, you're a friend of the basket. And acting kind of helped me cultivate this idea that, what if I just act like I'm more confident than I am normally? What if I just project sort of a sense of calm and understanding about what's going on? And what if I do that while sharing my favorite game, Dark Souls? Which, yeah, I don't know if you know this, there is one perfect game out there, it's Dark Souls 1. I'm not going to say what it gets on the 13-point scale yet, because we will get there eventually, I promise. It just, life gets in the way sometimes. This semester though, for classes, I decided to take an auditioning techniques course, and that was an incredible opportunity where I learned about acting under pressure and being in more stressful situations, which then will translate later on when I'm sort of applying for jobs in the computer science field. By the way, I'm never going to apply for jobs in the computer science field. I'm not going to college so I can work for someone else. I'm not even going to college to work for myself even. I don't want to start a business. You think I want to wake up every week and work? Nah. I am going to college simply because I love to learn. There's so much to be interested in the world, that to try and sort of encapsulate it all into one person is impossible. But we can find the things we're interested in, become specialists within those fields, and then share that passion with others who are passionate in their field. And that's one of the things I really love about actors, is they love sharing how passionate they are about acting. And for me personally, again, one of the big things was, whatever you have going on in your day, you get to take that off and be someone else for a little bit. Well, if you can take it off for a little bit to act, what's keeping you from just not carrying it at all? And over time with acting, as I got more confident and comfortable with who I am, I think it was really cool because I was able to go back and visit my family and do things that, after such a large event in my life as getting removed from the military, I kind of struggled with my self-esteem. I once had a therapist tell me, you can have a surgery for tits and a vagina, but then you'll just be a woman with tits, a vagina, and low self-esteem. So at some point, there has to be some sort of agency on my part for how I react to the way the world treats me. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you see how people treat me on the YouTube. It's not excellent, but the good thing is there are good people out here, and my work does sort of speak to those people. So in a sense, acting gave me a new form of being able to create something and connect with people. And honestly, I mean, making Aqueous Erbium as a friend and becoming able to interact with him and talk with him has been an awesome experience. Being able to reconnect with Generic 253, an old friend from high school, has been incredible, because even though I've grown so much since then, we're still both people that can hang out and have a good time together. It's not that we sort of forget the past, we just grow from it. And the people we've grown into in our, I think, late 20s, early 30s, wherever we are in age among the three of us, it's really interesting to me that we're still good people. We've made mistakes, I'm sure, but we don't carry those mistakes as sort of scars that we feel bad about. We carry those mistakes as lessons learned moving forward. And it's incredible to see the great things that these people have accomplished, and the fact that I get to consider myself friends with both of them. Being able to sort of create these videos means the world to me, especially since you all are wonderful. And I think acting is something that gave me the sort of comfortable confidence to come on here and share myself with you. And it's funny because on the one side, StickyBasket is a character, but on the other side, that character is one built for me, that I sort of hope to be one day. And I think that's what, makes me enjoy making these videos for you, is because I get to be someone who I want to be, rather than be someone who's constantly subjected to the judgments of the world. And the more I get to create for you, the less I even have to worry about the judgments of the world. And when I go back to the world, you know what those judgments mean to me when I have friends who support me and love me for who I am? It means a whole lot of nothing. I mean, economically, I'm sure that they can come and take my job, or they can come and take my hormones, or they can put me in an overseas island as a prison worker. But they can't change who I am, and they can't change that I'm gonna go, well, this is a load of barnacles, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to make sneakers and, like, jumpsuits for other prisoners. That sounds, I don't know, unconstitutional? But whatever. I hope moving forward I can step away from politics and step more towards sort of my passion in acting. I was talking with my therapist this past week, and politics is wild because no matter how much we talk about it and discuss it, we're all going to have our views. But I kind of want to share the things that I'm learning with you all, because those things I'm actually growing in. I'm always going to dislike when people's rights are sort of taken from them by an unjust government. I'm always going to advocate that the government's position in our lives should economically provide us the basic means of survival. And in a capitalist society where we have sort of like this insurance system built to capitalize on the fear of people, the fear of accidents happening, and those insurance companies have no issue with reserving payment held to beneficiaries, it becomes this sort of legalese argument of, are the insurance companies and the government on the same side, or are they working against the common good for like the benefit of CEOs and private companies? What exactly is to insure us in the event of an accident? And why do we spend so much money there that we sort of lose track of the fact that, like, if you don't get into an accident, all that money goes to nothing? It's essentially like the reverse of a lottery, but it's such a... Anyway, the thing is, politics doesn't change, and I'm not going to change the world as just one person. But the things I change about my world and the way I interact with it come through the lessons learned and the things I do as I go about my day-to-day life. So while I can't necessarily take you on a full day throughout my life just for, I'm not going to show you how I act at work. I'm telling you, I am too good at my job, and someone's going to look at it and go, I want to hire Chloe as an electronics technician, and I'm such a goofy goober, I'll probably take the job, and I don't even want to work for other people. I just want to be able to make YouTube videos, play Dark Souls, sort of like play with my animals, just live. And I don't know, as long as I can, I'm going to keep doing it because I think my production costs are pretty much zero. At least they're covered by my day-to-day living. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. This weekend I have a couple videos planned because I want to kind of make up for missing the video last week. And again, we learn from our mistakes and we grow. And I think not creating last week, instead of sharing what was going on, didn't really help any. And it wasn't until I went to an improv class with my professor from Acting 1, which, again, it's as if he sort of like has grown into like this mentor type figure in terms of like, I always enjoy going to him and learning, because when you get into the high pressure situation of an auditioning techniques course, and then you get to sort of experience the nervousness that goes with that, but you remember back to the fun you had in that Acting 1 class, you will go, well, where does that stage fright even come from? And it's trying to take that fear and turn it into an excitement for where we can go moving forward. Like, sure, there's a lot of bad people in government, but thank goodness there are so many of us that recognize that. I hope moving forward we're afforded the opportunity to continue living in a representative country, and I hope the government continues to represent my interests, even though this current administration seems hell-bent on removing my personal interests from the government entirely. Now I have to expect the benefits of a biological woman in a patriarchal society, and do you know how women have it in this world? Men are constantly talking over them. Anyway, that's why it's interesting when I get to call a game like Dark Souls woke, because then everyone comes in, oh, Dark Souls isn't woke. Oh yeah, well yeah, if you haven't played Dark Souls, I guess you wouldn't know it's woke. But games have been woke since like forever. I mean, in 2008, the game Mirror's Edge talks about how Faith's parents were sort of at a protest and then put into a prison camp as a result of it, or murdered or something, because there was a giant riot that went on and people were standing against the fascism growing around them, but that didn't stop the fascism from taking over every area of their life and leading them to a society where people had to hire couriers to travel and put messages between each other, which then leads to the plot of Mirror's Edge. But again, that's supposed to be video game reality, not reality, and for whatever reason, the two seem to be mixing in a very weird way. So anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I think if you get the opportunity, go ahead and take a class in something you don't necessarily know everything about, or take a class in something and just grow as a person. The idea of watching a video and getting better, I guess you can't really practice a skill while watching someone else do it, but we can always grow, learn, and advance. I mean, I like to write in a notebook. I like to draw. I don't have any of these shared on the internet, but this is things that like maybe someday I'll grow confident and comfortable in those abilities and be willing to share it. And the thing about our mistakes is that from those, that's where we get the successes. It's when you're willing to try 1,000 times that the 1 in 1,000 shot can come about. So if you ever have felt gambler's fallacy, I just want you to know you are coming up on a big win. Just keep on playing. And don't worry about, everything all the time. You can worry about it some of the time, but be sure that you give time for yourself to sort of have fun and enjoy, how much the world has to offer. It's beautiful out there. Today's even a sunny day, and I might go roller skating. Anyway, thanks again for being here. Sorry again about last week. Hopefully, moving forward, I won't miss a week again. But I also want to continue sharing with you the things I learned, the way I'm growing, and the story of Dark Souls. So once we get out of the funk, we'll get back into the Anor Londo, Anyway, have a good one. Bye. Love you. Thanks for watching.